Great. So, we'll call the April 15, 2024 meeting of Greenville Board of Public Works and Safety to order at 5:30 p.m. Roll call, please, Amanda.
Mr. Rutherford.
Here.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Mr. Colvin.
Here.
The minutes of our last meeting of April 1st, 2024 have been distributed to members of the board. Any corrections, additions, or deletions from staff? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval as presented?
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Petty, first on our agenda tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Who's here tonight to request the board approval to sell a 2018 Dodge Charger and equipment VIN ending 224425 to the town of Homecroft for the amount of $10,000, and they're authorized me to sign any documentation related to this.
We have a resolution 24-06. So inclined.
I move for approval. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doc. Next on our agenda is Chief. No, Jamie.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Jamie Washell, Chief. I'm here to request authorization to approve contract with Southwest Solutions for new fire lockers. Approximately 20 new ones. So our current lockers are over 20 years old and really met their span of life.
And we gave those away, those last couple weeks ago. Questions for the chief on this?
Move for approval. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Chief. Have a good rest of your evening. Mr. Duncan, Jack, just gonna take care. Talk about paint quotes first, if that's okay with you. Go ahead, Jack, what we got?
Jake Avery, Assistant Superintendent, Street Department, come to the board to get a paint supply for the 2024 year. We put 3 bids out: Sherwin-Williams, Enos Flint, and Mike Green, for 1,900 gallons of minimum white water-based fast dry paint in 5-gallon pails, and 1,500 gallons minimum yellow water-based fast dry paint in 5-gallon pails. Sherwin-Williams for white paint was $10.75 per gallon. Yellow was $10.75 per gallon. Enos Flint was $14 per gallon on the white, and $14 per gallon on the yellow. And they do have an additional $1.13 per gallon in each extra paint order. And Mike Green was $22.28 per gallon for white and $22.95 per gallon for yellow. I'd like to purchase from Enos Flint.
We know that, I think we're looking at through the documents you presented, the price of Sherwin-Williams is a little bit lower, but we've had some issues with them in the past.
Quite a bit of issue with paint, being too thin. It gums up real bad. Our paint guy has problems with it going to the machine.
We weren't that much cheaper to undertake all those kind of problems. Have we worked with Enos Flint before?
Yes, we can.
Okay, satisfied with those?
Yes.
So is there a motion to approve Enos Flint for the paint and being the lowest responsible for it?
So moved.
I'll second that. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Let's go on to the paint beads, I guess.
Okay, our paint beads, we put that's 3 bids from first one will be Swarco Industries We did 24,000 pounds of meat in 50-pound bags. And Swarco was at 58 cents a pound. Mike Green was at 67 cents a pound. And Sherwin-Williams was 67 cents a pound. 6.7. And like the purchase beef from Swarco.
They are the lowest. Well, have we used them before?
Yes.
And you're satisfied with those? Okay. Questions for Jack? No, I'll move that we approve the direction to purchase the glass beads from Swarco.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Here now, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Jack. Okay, now it's moving on to Kevin Riddle at Arbor Homes, Scottsdale Estates, Section 1, Auto Home Parking Lot.
Mr. Riddle had informed us he might not be able to make it tonight, and I was happy to present this for him. This is a pretty straightforward request.
Okay, go ahead.
So Arbor Homes is building in Scottsdale Estates. They are looking to install some parking lots for some of their model homes, 2 parking lots on 2 different lots, lots 29 and 40. We've reviewed these. We've also had some post-performance guarantees so that are working erosion control, and that's what we have for us tonight.
And your departments.
Yes, everything is squared away, and we're comfortable with what was provided.
I move that we approve the request. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mark, for taking care of that. Next, we'll go on to American Structure Point, Josh Privilege for Aspen Creek Grill. Josh, are you with us?
Hey, I am.
Okay, I hear you. Tell us what we're doing, what you want.
Yeah, so we're looking for approval of our performance guarantees, our testing or inspection and testing agreement, our final replat of the actual current block that we're developing, and then a waiver request for our stormwater. Of most interest is that waiver request where we're asking for the removal of a 0.1 foot drop within storm structures.
Look like we've got a variety of things on our agenda. One of them being waiver request. Let's do everything but the waiver request first. Is that okay? So the acceptance to performance guarantees, execution of inspection and testing agreement, and the final replat.
I'd actually recommend we do the waiver request first. There's
Okay.
a strange, small off chance that it could affect all the other things. You know,
Okay.
did I need to waive?
Good to ask you. Let's go to that then.
I guess we engineering prepared a memo regarding this. There's actually 2 waiver requests, Josh. I only heard you mention one.
Oh, shoot, yeah, sorry.
First was for a cover waiver from our cover requirement. They can't get 2 feet of cover over top of some of their storm sewer. The engineering division, we're not generally opposed to this waiver of our requirements. It's a private storm sewer system. It's in a parking lot, and they're tying into an existing system, so they're fairly limited by what they could tie into on this waiver request. That won't be ours to maintain in the long term. And the second waiver was the one Josh mentioned, which was the 10th of a foot drop through manhole and inlet structures. Very similar issue. It's an existing storm sewer system that they're tying into it, so they're fairly limited by where they can tie into it and what's out there in the field already.
So your office is recommending granting both the waiver requests?
Yes.
I move for approval. For both.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
There's no special conditions on this, so we can just, we don't need your extra handy Mark.
Correct.
Now, let's go back to the other things. We've got the performance guarantees, the inspection and testing agreement, and the final replat.
Yes, and on the final plat, we are waiting for receipt. There was an issue with the delivery method at FedEx. So we're asking that you condition it upon receipt and review of that final plat. engineer just wants one final look at it.
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
You too. Next, let's go to Brian Cross, Civil Site Group, talk about Greenwood Christian Academy Building Addition.
Yeah, good evening.
Good
Board.
evening.
Brian Cross, Civil Site. So we're here before you this evening in conjunction with the Plan Commission petition 2024-007 for a building addition on this property located 835 West Horseville Road. About 6,500 square foot classroom addition on the east side of the existing gymnasium that's there. So we were asking for approval and acceptance of the performance guarantees, which is a letter of credit for road control measures we installed on site, and the acceptance of the inspection and testing agreement.
And Mark, CDS is recommending an unconditional approval.
That's correct, yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Next, we're gonna hear from Paula Moan. Good evening.
Hi.
Or good afternoon, whatever it's for.
Pretty close to either.
Yeah.
I am Paul Malone. I'm representing Stockyards Bank, and we would just like to replace the monument sign at County Line in Emerson that was formerly Chase Bank, and it was removed when Chase exited the building. We plan to open on June 3rd, and I would like to place our monument sign exactly same size, same specs as the Chase sign, just have Stockyards on it.
Trying to picture this from my County Line and
Southwest.
southwest corner.
Front available for you.
Mark, we have maybe Paula, we've got a memo from Jeff Weaver of the CDS. They've made some recommendations and conditions. Have you seen that memo?
No,
That the encroachment agreement prepared by the legal department and executed by the owner be recorded by the owner of the parcel. You must apply for a sign permit from the city. The sign shall not disrupt the flow of the stormwater. And should any work within that easement area be necessary by any of the utilities or the city, the owner shall be responsible for removal and replacement of the sign at the owner's sole expense. And the owner further holds harmless utilities in the city of Greenwood for any damage to the sign. Excuse me, and that Indiana 811 be notified prior to any construction of soil-bearing utilities can be marked. Pretty standard from our perspective. I think that's okay from your client's perspective.
well, I'm the client, the landlord, I will have to get with him to make sure that he's okay with doing that. We assume all responsibility for everything on the property. It's a land lease for us, so it would be us that I guess would be looking for the permit.
I think the motion, if it is forthcoming, would be subject to those conditions.
I'll make that motion subject to those conditions.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And does she have this motion, or can we?
We can provide it to you,
Can I
and
get that one?
yeah, and also because it's a commercial encroachment, there'll be a formal agreement that's prepared by city legal, so these conditions will be listed in that agreement.
You're welcome to have mine too.
Yeah, can I ask, would that have been also in place when Chase Bank
Yes.
resided there?
Yeah.
More than
So
likely.
would they have gotten permission with Chase Bank? So is it because it's a different tenant? Okay, I just have to explain it to our
If you.
facilities. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a picture of the Chase. We're just doing the exact same thing, the exact same place. Thank you.
Thanks. Beck, how are you?
Good. After it with a USB.
Actually, we took it off for you.
Good evening, board. Joseph Peck with Project Plus here, representing Pulte Homes for the Ridge Top Section 1 project. We're here requesting some stormwater variances that we need for this project. I don't know if we just want to go through each one at a time. I don't.
Yeah, I think so.
No. So the first variance for chapter is from the municipal code, chapter 9, Part 4, division 2, sections 9-156. The first request is for the drawdown time. We've had to request this in the past, is that to meet the Greenwood's requirement for stormwater release rate, is that we can't get the right? Okay. Well, we can't get the drawdown time to the 48 hours that you're supposed to have the 90% return. There it is. So we can't get the 48-hour return. We can only get 61% of the pond return in that 48 hours because of the slow drawdown time as the water starts to go down. We get 90% restored at 127 hours. So it does take a longer period to get the water out just because the control orifices are smaller as they get as the water goes down. So it just extends that time out. We just aren't able to draw it.
Mark, do you want to comment on each of these waivers as we go? Is that
I can.
an efficient way to do that? Please.
So yeah, I think Mr. Heck explained this pretty clearly. We have some pretty tight requirements on our discharge, our outlet. The only way to meet a quicker drawdown is to let water out faster than pond. So this is a pretty common one we see. I'm not generally opposed to this waiver. I would note on all 5 of these waivers, after staff review, we feel that the petitioner had failed to provide details on how the 5 waiver criteria are justified. Those are listed on the waiver packet you have there. We thought they gave some very general, vague responses to that. So we'd like to see more detail on those on any of these waivers.
If we were inclined to grant the waiver request, could it be subject to you receiving that?
It could, or
Justification, or
if
do
we
you
want
want
to
us
have
to do
Mr.
that?
Heck answer it tonight, we could do that as well too.
Yeah,
Let's do it tonight.
I got an email from Paul. I didn't really, I was trying to be on my request letter, try to explain what we're requesting on each item. Try not to be real vague, but I didn't go into super detail on it, the drawdowns and all that. I did go over some of the numbers and percentage that we do get.
I think from a
I
technical,
didn't understand, I didn't do the form like at a board, variant, like a BZA. I didn't do the criteria. We haven't did that in the past. That's never been requested. That's why.
I think from a technical perspective, there was a fair amount of technical information that was included, but again, those 4 waivers, that it's not detrimental to the public health, safety, health, or welfare, or interest to other surrounding properties, that it's particular physical surroundings, topographic condition.
That's that.
I think we just gave
Well, I
general
just have-
statements that, yes, those things are true, you did provide how those things are true, if that makes
Because
sense.
I have a paragraph in my letter, but not for each one. I just have it.
Right, you just
There are
kinda-
letters that, they're all, none of them really, none of these variances would be interesting to the public or anything. Or any value or anything now. So the stormwater waivers usually don't have any problems with public health. So that's why I just have a general paragraph at the end stating that, not for each comment.
Mark, you're saying you just need more justification for those particular requirements.
Correct.
Yeah, we have statutory, there's 4 things that we have to consider when granting a waiver request. And many of them, the grant of the waiver will not be detrimental to public safety, health, or welfare, or injurious to the property, conditions upon which the request for waiver is based are unique to the property for which the waiver is sought and are not applicable generally to other property. The application of the ordinance and of the manual will present a called undue hardship for the development of development site. Provide, however, that undue hardship shall not include the need for the developer to incur reasonable expenses in order to comply with the ordinances of the manual. And the granting of the request of relief will not substantially prevent the goals and purposes of the ordinance, nor result in like the effective management of stormwater runoff and stormwater quality. So,
I believe it's in your memo packet. I can pass it down. I highlighted the paragraph that Mr. Heck's initial submittal on how they, well, that I feel didn't really further fully explain that.
That's something we would just state.
Well, let me, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Tim Oaks. I'm an attorney for Pulte Homes of Indiana. Be happy to go through for each of the 5 waivers, each of the 4 criteria. If it's something that the board feels inclined to grant, if you would like, we can then follow up with the actual written findings that you can then adopt at your next meeting. However you'd like to proceed, but that is a suggestion that might make things easier and go a little bit quicker.
I'm comfortable with that.
okay. So we want to do a conditional approval on receipt of those conditions being articulated in the written findings.
Yeah, we can, but I would still like to go through each waiver request.
Okay, so let's do number 1. We generally, subject to getting those written findings, you're okay with that?
Yes.
Is what I understand. Okay. Is there a motion to approve waiver request number 1?
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay. Now, Joe, if you want to go to waiver number 2.
So waiver 2 is from the same Green Municipal Code, but this one's for the 2-foot freeboard. So on this one, this side has a large 42-acre upstream watershed that comes to us, and our control downstream is by the legal drain connection point. So we're running a pipe to the legal drain that goes under Combs Road. So we're detaining it back as much more as we can to meet the allowable release rates. So our 100-year goes up to pull back as much as we can. But this surrounding ground, since this is kind of a low area that we put these ponds in, we just can't get the banks up. I mean, I think we're asking for a 6-inch reduction on the freeboard, or the 12-inch reduction. So we can only get 1 foot of freeboard instead of 2. And I've looked at trying to raise that bank up more, but then we can't match into the existing ground that surrounds the property with the elevation of the bank. We have a little bit of water that comes onto it. So if we raise the bank up, we then block the water coming in, but I can't get the North Pool lower because the storm sewer is running as flat as it can all the way to the legal drain. If that makes sense. So, you know, we're only asking, the freeboard would only be for a short amount of time with that water, you know, because this pond has a 2-tier spillway, so we have to bypass the offsite flow through one control weir, and then we have an emergency spillway above that. So we're asking for the flow above that spillway to be reduced.
I'm not ignoring you, I'm reading your packet.
So, you know, if we was able to release more water, you can get down here down a little bit and meet the freeboard. We, you know, used to not have these issues, but the release rate really hinders all the, because you have to pull that water back to get that low release. And when you have a big watershed upstream, it really hurts you when you gotta pass that water. But in the future, when the upstream, you know, that side is gonna be developed, it's already being looked at. Once they have their ponds in, all the release rates get slowed down. You're right, yours start coming down as the releases get built back upstream. In the future, probably we'll have the 2-foot, but not just right now.
So what's the danger here on flooding on Combs Road?
Generally, freeboard's provided to provide a little factor of safety in a pond. So if an outlet control structure gets blocked, if a downstream pipe collapses, the ditch gets filled in, something like that, there's additional storage in that pond before you have to start using that emergency spillway. So yeah, the concern would be one of those events happens and flooding occurs somewhere in the subdivision or in the nearby area.
Yeah, because our top bank has to be 2 foot above the spillway elevation. So if it goes down, the water it would just come over the bank on the north end of that property first, and it would just spill over.
Mark, from your perspective, what could be a way to resolve that? Build it.
You'd have to bring the site up, fill the site more. I think you're requesting a whole foot in your waiver. I think looking at the top of bank and the 100-year storm elevation, it's more like 8 inches.
Right.
But
Yeah,
yes, you have to bring up, at least around the pond, additional filter around that. pond.
The problem with doing that though is right now because the water in this area flows from the south to the north. And so when Joe talks about the large upstream shed, we're accepting a lot of water from down south. And if you raise up our property, or let's say you raise up the area around the pond to give the freeboard that you'd like to see, which is 2 feet, it acts as a dam to prevent the property to the south from flowing into our system. And so if you raise it up until the property to the south gets developed, you're going to cause more problems on the property to the south. And so that's the difficulty here. Once that property gets developed and they have their own pond with their controlled release rate, then our pond starts gaining freeboard because the elevation of the 100-year flood is going to be reduced because the water upstream of us is not going to be coming as quick because it's controlled. But right now it's undeveloped property, it sheets onto ours, we raise it up, we're going to cause problems upstream. And so therein lies it actually helps property to our south. That is the difficulty that exists here. And we're not asking for a 0 freeboard. We still have 12 inches of freeboard. We still have a fudge factor, if you will, of 12 inches instead of 24, but that's as much as we can get given the limitations on the site.
Jeff, this is kind of your bailiwick.
No, I understand what dilemma you're in, I understand the dilemma that the staff's in too, so.
and I looked at the site and tried to meet it, because I don't want to ask for variances. So I mean, I looked at all ways I could try to get the freeboard right. I just couldn't do this one.
You said it's closer to 8 inches?
Correct. They have about a foot and a quarter of freeboard, at least on that north pond, when I remember.
The freeboard on the north pond is the more important one because that's the one that discharges into the Combe Road ditch. So that's the one you want to have a left stream.
Again, from staff's perspective, this is a piece of raw ground surrounded by raw ground to the north and the south. It's kind of a clean slate to start with, which is some of our frustration with some of these waiver requests as well.
Have you looked at the fact of the potential drainage to the south? If it's going to back up on that property?
So I think what Mr. Oaks was alluding to, if they raise the site up, that water that currently sheet flows across all 3 of these properties really wouldn't be able to do that anymore. It'd be the petitioner's responsibility then to basically convey that storm water in a different way, whether that be through side yard swales or inlets or storm sewer. They'd have to collect that water, and they couldn't, legally, they would not be allowed to just dam out that water on the property to the south. Again, one item I bring up a lot too is I don't know if it would work on this site, reducing density in a subdivision leads to less runoff, leads to more capacity in the pond as well too.
Well, I understand your dilemma. I guess I'm hard pressed to counter our staff's recommendation on this. You have thoughts?
So what is staff's recommendation? A denial or?
Is the denial of the, that's what we've been told so far, right, Mark?
Yes. And we don't have the ability through the zoning process that the density was already reduced because of certain issues. We don't have the ability to further reduce that. As I said, this has been, we think it meets all 4 criteria. It isn't going to be detrimental to the surrounding area. As a matter of fact, we think it helps it. It is a function of how, this property is low and without a lot of slope to it. And so you've got your invert at the Combs Road outlet that we tied to, that's set, and to raise everything up, and then have to do additional work that would provide drainage for our property to the south, and we don't have a right on the property to do it.
I mean, yeah, they're looking to do a lot of downstream work to fix the Combs Road. I mean, the Combs Road drainage problem's been there for a while, so they went through Johnson County to relocate the legal drain. They're gonna open up the ditch to open more flow, put new pipes under Combs Road, and run a new pipe to their side. So the 100-year, we're just dealing with the 100-year, storm event, very rare storm event. And the 2 foot of freeboard is only for a short amount of time. As the water goes up, there's a curve, water's held back, and then it starts releasing out the top of the spillway. And it goes down pretty quick. Then as the control box, it gets below the top of the control box, it starts slowing down. So we're dealing with a very short amount of time. That we actually not have the 2 foot of freeboard. Most of the time, we'll have 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, the bank on this pond it's got 5 or 6 foot bank. So it's not like it's a real small pond. This is 2 big ponds interlinked with big culvert pipes to provide a lot of storage, hold all the upstream, and slow the water down so Combs Road's not flooding. So that's the issues. Fixing Combs Road's the benefit to Greenwood. So if we go asking for ponds, killing these projects, they have to be able to have a certain amount of lots to make the cost work on these downstream branch improvements that they're doing to benefit the county and the city. So we got to take those into account too when we look at kind of the overall drainage for these sites.
For the record, the downstream drainage reports, there's a culvert under Combs Road north of this parcel. It's very undersized right now. I don't know how much water it carries, if at all. The Johnson County surveyor is requiring this project to upgrade that culvert crossing underneath.
Yeah, I think it's a 15. I think they're going to twin 27s to handle this more flow, and then they're doing a new ditch. Kind of instead of going, it's not going to just go across these fields anymore. We're going to actually ditch it over to the existing ditch that's northeast of this side. Sure that,
Mark, this is a memo, the standard could be met by adding additional fill to the site,
Correct.
but you don't want to do that.
Well, again, until that site to the south is developed, we think it would cause problems there by raising it up. And the alternatives to get the flow into a pond that's been filled
You don't think with 8
are
inches,
more difficult.
8 to 12 inches of fill on around these ponds, look at the freeboard, you could slope the property back to the south property line and come back to
I mean, I
the
looked
existing
at it,
south
I
property
would have
line.
had 2 foot through if I could get this. There was a reason I didn't have. I think we got a little bit of offsite flow from the industrial to the west that comes on to us. And if we go, basically it blocks that flow. That's really the only, I mean, the north end, I think we can get that bank up, but it's the second pond coming in from the east. Yeah, so.
Is there any benefit to continuing the consideration of this waiver request? See if they can come up with something that is positive from the city standpoint?
I mean, I would leave that to the petitioner if they think they could additionally engineer the site to make it meet our standards. I think the question eventually comes down to the board is if you're comfortable with not meeting these standards on this condition.
And I'm not trying to read between the lines, but if the present condition presents the 3 of us, or at least 2 of us, from denying this waiver request. Would be an ability for the petitioner to come back even after a denial to ask us to reconsider if they can comply with the something else that may not be exactly what the ordinance requires. That may be more of a legal question you're saying. Are they precluded from coming back again to appeal a denial, essentially?
When we appeal, they can bring it back again.
And
The better thing, if you're inclined to vote against it, is for them to fix
To
the
do
problem
something
and
to
come
fix
back in 2 weeks.
I would encourage you to continue that request. To give a little bit more
I
time
mean,
to.
we're being held for tech review for this, I mean, we really wouldn't want to hold 2 weeks. I mean, if you guys don't, if,
So this is a primary plat. State law says they have 60 days from application to when they have to have a public hearing for their primary plat. So they are on a timeline
oh no,
to ours.
this has already been primary platted,
Oh, it is?
this is a construction plan.
Okay, so then there's no timeline
Yeah.
on it.
Really, the problem is on the middle pond, is that it can't take the flow, see how there's flow from industrial, there's like trees in the north, there's mountains. That water comes onto us, that little bit of water. So if I raise the bank, it's blocking that water coming onto us. I mean, I could raise that bank up in that area, but then it blocks that water from kind of flowing in. I mean, if you deny it, then we'll do some grading and flood that water the other way, yes. But really, the bank at the north, we could probably raise up on the north pond. And really the only waiver we're asking for is on the west bank of the
West bank of
the
small pond.
the middle pond, yeah. Because the north pond, we can raise it up, but if the
It's already done with that.
so this bank all the way around the subdivision is fine, we can raise that up, but then we would have to raise up a little bit here and here.
Further questions from the board?
So I'm gonna make sure they understand your last comments. So can we, this is the northernmost one? So on the north, can we meet it? So the waiver would be limited then to the south pond.
Right.
So if we, would that change staff's opinion here if we meet the free board on the north pond? Especially since that's the one discharging into Combs Road?
I mean, I guess my concern is you submitted a waiver request for both ponds for the entire site. And now today, when we're recommending denial of it, you could say, well, we can meet the waiver on one pond and not the next pond. Like, what leads me to believe you can't meet the waiver on the second?
It's
pond?
because, the ponds are interlinked through an equalizer pipe. I mean, it's basically using, when we run the drainage, it's one big pond, that's how we run the numbers on it. So we're not, I mean, if I look at it as one big detention area when I'm doing it this time. So when I ask the waiver, I mean, I'm also asked for.
Pleasure of the board.
When is the next board meeting, just to be clear?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It's actually
No,
3 weeks because there's an extra Monday. in.
Oh,
Yeah, there's
okay.
a
Sorry,
Monday
3 weeks.
and it's gonna get bumped because of the election day, so it'll be Wednesday, May the 5th.
Is that through?
That's 23 days or 22 days.
So
I'm inclined to grant a continuance of that. I think your other option is it's probably gonna get denied. What am I gonna speak for
Continued
these
it,
two
I
guys?
mean, if you're not gonna prove it. We won't continue, we'll
I move that we deny the request for the waiver.
get anything.
And I'll second that.
well, I would prefer a continuance. I mean, if we're gonna deny it, then doesn't do us any good. I mean,
That's what I was trying to open it.
no, I understand. We're just gonna have to continue this one.
Regarding timelines, if you're scheduled for tech next Wednesday, it's likely they could still stay on our tech review for final approval and that approval would be conditioned upon obtaining these
Yeah.
waivers.
Then that
So-
slow you down.
And they just would not be able to obtain the land alteration permit until these waiver issues are accepted.
So, I withdraw my second.
Oh, cool.
You have another motion
A motion that we continue the second request for the waiver.
at the request of the petition.
Yes.
I'll second that. Further discussions on that. And are we talking about just waiving, just continuing the consideration of waiver number 2?
Waiver number 2.
So the next
Question?
one, it's for,
I think they.
Well, we gotta vote on
this.
oh, right.
All in favor of the motion for continuance?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, okay.
So third waivers for chapter 9, article 4, division 2, section 9-157. This one is for the 1/10 drop between storm inlets. And this would be just for the storm run from the pond to the illegal drain outlet. And the reason we're asking for this is that it is tight on the elevation. So if we can save that 10 through the drop all the way down to Combs Road to the new pipe, we can then have our more pull lower and help us with, again, with the freeboard and top bank issues, that it helps keep it, we gotta get that pond as low as possible to make the whole site work. So if we go 10th in every inlet, there's 7 inlets to the pond, that would have to raise that pond up 8 inches. And then that in turn raises all the pipes internally up 8 inches on the site. So we're tight over there on this site, so it's in a kind of a bowl area, so that's what we're asking.
This might,
So this would be just for the outlet.
this might be another one where we could grant a condition upon getting Rick findings of fact that meet those conditions. If so, I'll make that motion.
Sorry.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Number 4 is for municipal code, chapter 9, article 4, division 2, section 9-157. This one is for the rear yards are not to exceed 4 CFS of flow. So what the problem is on these south lots, these slots 20, 21, and 22, they take the watershed from the south that comes onto us, and we have to get that routed to a large culvert that gets that water routed along here and into the pond, right around the system, the internal system, because we got to get water quality on the internal. So we got to route the offsite water through a swell, the larger pipe to the pond, so we that water through the side. So on just these lots and these rear lots, you know, the flow comes out more than 4 CFS. So we just, it's just a waiver we're asking for just those lots, so we get that water into.
No alternatives from your perspective?
Not really. I mean, there's just some watershed that comes on.
Mark, you have any thoughts on this one?
Mr. Rutherford has my cheat sheet, but I think my thoughts on this one, I wanted to make sure the board was aware that rear yard swale is gonna be, what did I say, upwards of 6 feet deep, I think at its deepest point, which is to the west, 3 feet deep at its minimum depth, and its top of bank of that's approximately 12 feet from the building pad of those homes. So those homes are not gonna have much of a backyard before it slopes down into that swale. I guess I'm curious from the petitioner if it would be possible to continue that 42-inch pipe and enclose that storm sewer and put inlets to capture, like beehive inlets, rear yard swale inlets to capture some of that offsite flow. Or there's a large area, common area to the west there, common area D at the end of the cul-de-sac. That ditch could be continually moved to the west, so it's not in those folks' rear yards. And it's more in a common area type.
We looked at, you know, inlets, beehive inlets won't be able to handle kind of that much flow, 42 acres onto us. So I don't think we can do enough. I don't think we would have beehives that would be able to handle that much flow. And then the flow is kind of spread across the whole south boundary here. And you can see the contours are, it's kind of coming this way down. So we're actually routing the water here under a larger pipe here, and then it flows here and it gets into that pond. So that's, the problem is that we have to provide 20 foot along that south bank for landscaping that's required. So we have to move the swell north of the landscaping that's required. You know, then we have to have a large detention pond, so it just makes that area, shrinks that area up, and those pads are close to the swell. But we gotta note also that this swell, once the south property is developed, they're gonna have a storm outlet that's gonna go right to that 42-inch pipe. So then the flow gets removed from that swell at some point once the south property is developed. And they have storm pipe.
Well, that deep, that close to the house.
I've probably seen similar fence requests for people that want to put a fence through similar drainage and utility easement because they don't have much of a backyard.
Some people would be happy enough to have much of a backyard.
Those pads are shown pretty deep. A lot of houses, those might be 70-foot pads. Those show the extra 15 foot from the back of house that they usually account for. So that way they already have accounted for a 50-foot deep house and like a 20 or 15 foot before it drops down. They do try to account for that when they lay these pads out.
Person buying that lot, it's what they're giving. Still going to create problems for the coast city. And you don't think extending the pipe through there instead of that's going to
Continuing the swale west of the common area was my thought, so the deeper part would be behind someone's home.
Why don't we,
I don't know if that, running it west of it would just, that's going, those contours are going up. So as you go more west, it makes the swells a little deeper as you go west.
but it's in a common area, not someone's backyard.
But we
I think
gotta get
that's
the
his
water,
point.
but we gotta get the water to that end of that pole.
Why don't we continue this one, since we're continuing the second one, and give you a little more opportunity to possibly look at a couple of alternatives. Staff's obviously recommending denial, and I think it's in your best interest to continue it and look at it again, if you're agreeable with that. Otherwise, we can call for a motion.
Well, we've continued the second one, there's at this point, there's no harm in continuing. this
Right.
one, too.
I move that we continue this request until the
Second.
next meeting.
further discussion. Favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll continue.
The last one is the same, there's municipal code, this is for the requirement to have a 6-inch underdrain in all the swells. Per the Greenwood Stormwater Manual, the city may waive the requirement for those underdrains, it's kind of unclear. It says if it's between 1 and 1.3, but all of our swells are 1.5%, and it's been the long-standing, my understanding that any swell over 1.3 doesn't have that underdrain, so we're just asking for it.
Again, this may be another one that we might be inclined to grant if we have those written conditions.
I move that we would approve this request subject to the written conditions.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So just so we're clear, waiver 1, 3, and 5 have been granted condition upon receipt of proposed written findings compliant with the ordinance. And consideration of waivers 2 and 4 have been continued. Guess we're putting it on to May 5th?
8th.
May 8th. Meeting. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks for being patient with us.
Thank you.
And Mark, we will fill out these conditions. I should probably let you do it.
Okay, that's fine.
Next, we're gonna go to Mark Radisson and Jonas Lewandowski, Scottsdale Estates, Section 1. I guess the second consideration of this matter.
This is Adam Mears with Gradison here.
Good afternoon. Yeah, it is good evening now, okay?
It is evening.
Tell us what we're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you, members of the board. I'm here on behalf of Scottsdale Estates, asking to have acceptance of our bonds. I understand, and acceptance and execution of the final plat. I understand, I'm sure Mark will chime in. There's going to, I think, be a couple conditions which we understand and agree with, but be happy to give you any more information that you need regarding our bond.
We have a proposed motion subject to some conditions, correct, Mark?
That's correct.
Is there a motion to consider this subject to those 3 conditions?
Is the petitioner aware of the 3 conditions?
If you wouldn't mind reading them, just so I believe one of them is going to the Plan Commission on the 22nd. I'm curious just how they're worded. I don't believe I saw those.
That's correct. And then payment of the 1/3 SAS
Right.
by the developer for all the lots, and then receipt of the revised final plat and review and
Yes.
approval by engineering and planning.
Yep, and all of those things should be done before the 22nd, so that would leave, by the time we get to the 22nd, just getting through Plan Commission next week. And yes, we understand that and agree to those.
I move that we approve the request subject to those conditions.
Further discussion? Right now, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a good evening.
Anyone from the audience have the courage to address us this evening? Anyone online? Hearing none, Mr. Hodson will move to you.
First up for me is request for authorization, approval of a contract with HSC for pavement maintenance. And this is to repair the parking lot in this building.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is Broadway Isom Street Sidewalk Repair Project. This is another one of Kevin's deals where they're taking a manageable bite, another $40,000 in repairing sidewalks.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is Shady Creek sidewalk repair. This is one that you've already approved, but in the course of dealing with these, they found some more work that needed to be done. It's not very much, I believe, $4,000.
What's in the amendment contract? Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And finally, the city owns a lot at 102 South Madison Avenue, and it needs the board's permission to issue a request for proposals from developers to use the lot.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Good evening again. First item I have on my agenda is to award a contract and authorize the mayor to sign for our 2024 hot mix asphalt material bid. This is the street department. This is how they purchase hot mix asphalt to do street repairs and patching. Milestone Contractors was, we're asking that you recognize Milestone Contractors LP as the lowest responsible bidder for this project. To authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Of course, you milestone for all the projects. Is there a quick motion to approve this?
So moved.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next item I have is for Cussinger Road again, parcel 8 owned by Charles Baxter and Megan Kitchen. We've secured right away from this. We're asking that you approve a payment of $42,000 and accept 0.118 acres permanent right away following issuance of that payment.
Well, that's a big chunk of land. Is that unusual?
What's on the screen is not the whole, that's just the parcel that we're buying from. We're not buying all of it.
1/10 of an acre.
We're buying about, I think it's 30 feet off the edge of the roadway.
I move we approve the request.
Second that. Further discussion? none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I have one other item that wasn't on the agenda.
Okay.
At your February 5th meeting, you approved purchasing right away at Cutzinger Road for parcel 24, which is owned by Du Maui, in the amount of $9,010. There was a second payment voucher on that payment packet that I failed to include in my memo. It's an additional $2,490 for that parcel. There was different entities that own the parcel and it had to be split two different ways. So that brings the total for that parcel to $11,500.
I'll move to approve that. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That's it. Thanks, Mark. Great. Anything from your office? Nothing from me. Awesome.
I move we approve the claims as were submitted.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Nothing else to come before the board? We'll stand adjourned at 6:26 PM. Thank you all.